My name is Jake Fox, and you're listening to Pro Lacrosse Talk.
On Schreiber. Sidearm whip. Scores. Now it's one. Padel scores. Hands off for Rabel. Switches hands and scores.
Kylie O'Miller showing off those shifty skills.
Right off the bat, there's Lyle Thompson.
Welcome to Pro Lacrosse Talk, the voice of Pro Lacrosse. I'm Hutton, he's Adam. Together we're bringing you interviews with your favorite players and coaches, as well as news from all 4 professional lacrosse leagues. We're here with Jake Fox, forward with the New York Riptide and member of the Iroquois National team. Jake, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So Jake, you grew up in Ottawa, Ontario. You're a member of the Métis tribe. When did you first get introduced to the sport, and how important is this game to your culture?
Well, obviously, it's very important to my culture. I started playing lacrosse when I was 7 years old, playing box lacrosse. I jumped into the competitive scene right away, and then I think I started playing field lacrosse when I was about 12 years old or so, when I was playing with the Edge program out in Toronto. But yeah, no, obviously lacrosse is basically, with the exception of football, has been basically the one sport that's been around with my family my entire life, and now with my brother and all that, and then with the other teams and programs that I'm running now. So lacrosse has been a huge part of my life, a huge part of my family's life, and obviously I'm playing with Iroquois and everything, and being a member of Métis, it's a huge part of everything that we do.
That's great. You followed that up too, going to college at Johns Hopkins, one of the premier U.S. colleges for lacrosse, and you played for Coach Petromala. What led to your decision to play for the Blue Jays?
So I committed very early. It wasn't like the new recruiting process they have now, so I committed going into my sophomore year. Mm-hmm. I was originally a 2014, and I was, don't tell my teachers this, but I was skipping school in the afternoon to make phone calls to college coaches, because I figured that would be like the best time to kind of get my name out there after tournaments and stuff like that. So I would, like, once a week probably be on the phone for 2.5 hours calling different coaches with schools I had interest in, and then I decided the best option for me was to reclassify to the 2015 class, and my offers went from middle of the pack D1 and considering even high level D3s to top 5 programs at the time reaching out to me after I had a decent summer and my recruiting process. And then it took about 2 weeks. Coach Petra was my first true official visit. And I'll tell you what, he wasn't a college coach. He'd be a great used car salesman. That guy can sell just about anything. He really sold me on the school, how important the academics are. We don't have another sport really overshadowing the lacrosse program there, being that's the only Division I sport on campus, which was a big thing for me. And then it was a super small campus too. I went on visits to other schools where coaches had to take you in like a car, in their own personal car, to get you around campus and show you that. And that wasn't quite the college life I was looking for. Obviously the lacrosse is great, and the history there too. Academics are top 10 U.S. consistently. And then the small campus was huge for me too. So that was the 3 main factors that went into me picking Hopkins.
Oh, that's great. And, you're a poli-sci major there, too. We're going to get into a little bit of that later. But not only did you attend a premier university and play lacrosse there, but you also came up in the Peterborough Lakers program, and you won a Man Cup in 2018, and then played your most recent Senior A with Brooklyn Lacrosse Club this past year. But how do you think playing in the major series lacrosse and coming up with Peterborough has prepared you to make the jump to the NLL?
I think it was huge. I was going into Peterborough coming from an organization, Gloucester and Ottawa, where, it's changed drastically now, but, I didn't learn how to play a 2-man game or do a pick and roll until I was, almost at the junior age. I had the Crawford brothers, Callum Crawford, who plays with New England in the NLL, and then his older brother, Ian, really kind of took me under their wing, seeing that, I had a future in lacrosse, and granted them, I'm thankful for them that they saw that in me and were willing to take the time to help me and kind of help me get my game ready for junior at the next level, knowing that I was going to try and go somewhere else Luckily, I was able to go to the closest location, being Peterborough, which again, another historic program, multiple Mintos, and when you look at the senior, they've won 3 straight man cups, and constantly some of the best players in the world and best players in the NLL come out of the Peterborough program. So for my 5 years of junior, I got to play for the Lakers. I had some great coaches, Matt Giles and Tracy Kolesky and Dan Carey. Really, my first year or so there kind of toughened me up, turned me into kind of the player I am today. Just kind of realizing with the size that I had, I need to play like I was a 6'3", 230 odd pounds player rather than trying to be a quick, shifty, 5'6", 135 pound soaking wet guy. They kind of developed me into the role that I've played for the last 8-9 years, and the role that I hope to play in the NLL as that kind of off-ball, gritty, protect your teammates kind of role, and then obviously hopefully help out on the off and put some balls in the back of the net while I do it.
Yeah, no, that's great. And, the Riptide took notice of that. You were drafted 19th overall for the expansion team. How was the draft for you, and what did it feel like to hear your name called?
It was fun. Obviously a lot of guys in this draft class I grew up with playing, whether field lacrosse or playing against, guys who were my summer ball teammates like Holden Garland and, John Wagner, who ended up, being with the Riptide with me, and, guys who I grew up playing with, like Carter Baddour, who was drafted by Rochester and stuff like that, Peterborough guys, all that. So it was cool getting to be in a room with a bunch of guys that you knew for a long time, and, you've all been waiting for that time in your life where, you get to take that first step towards the pros. It was awesome. The Xfinity Live is absolutely incredible in Philly, and the way the NLL does it is, top notch compared to, what I used to watch 5 or 6 years ago. They've really stepped it up a notch and made it feel like a big deal because, to a lot of kids it is. This is the next step of their career where, this is something a lot of these kids, when they're 3 years old and they first start playing paperweights and stuff, this is what they're dreaming of, is playing in the NLL. So, the experience was cool. It felt like I was sitting in that room forever. I know saying that and being taken at the top of the second round sounds a little odd, but it's just that nervousness, and like every team you talk to, right, they come up on the draft board and you think, oh, maybe it's you, maybe it's not. And you start playing head games with yourself. That sense of relief to hear your name called was great, and I can't be more thankful to end up in a place like New York. This next season is going to be absolutely awesome. I'm excited for this team and the talent we have, and I think we're going to surprise a lot of people.
No, that's awesome, and it's great that you're with a new team, kind of a new look, and that kind of brings me to my next question. What's the vibe been at Riptide training camp so far?
Oh, it's been fantastic. We got a bunch of guys who've been in the league from 7 to 10 plus years, and who've been kind of leading the way. You got guys like Rannigan and Diggy B and McRae, and those guys who are really leading the way as leaders on this team. Luckily, I've known Rannigan for 6 years or so now with that Hopkins connection, so it's been nice to talk to him. And Digby plays a real role that I kind of want to play. Obviously, he was one of the more dominant players in the NL last year, putting up 70 to 80 points playing with New England. So I'm really excited to learn from a guy like him. And obviously, Dan McRae, captain of Calgary last year, won the NLL Champions Cup. He knows what it takes to win. And then we got a lot of guys who are, in this league to prove themselves at this point, who have been in the league for 4 or 5 years, practice squad, in and out of lineup with other teams. So I think you're going to see a really hungry, aggressive, and, just a team that's not going to step down from anybody, no matter who they are, what the names on the other side are. We're out here to, prove what Riptide lacrosse is, and I think that's going to be mean, gritty, and in your face. And I'm going to fit into that well, and I can't wait to get started. We're in, Halifax in the second week of the season. So, that's going to be a pretty cool, another new relocation team, that's opening up their new fan base with us. So it's going to be fun. It's going to be exciting. I think you're going to see some quick rivalries with us too. We had a scrimmage against Philly, and I think that's going to be a fun rivalry that fans are really going to like.
Yeah, no, definitely. And that I think you hit the nail on the head with the Philly-New York rivalry. It's in every other sport, so why not lacrosse?
It was pretty cool. We had that inter-squad scrimmage in the Coliseum, and you know what? The floor was awesome. The fans that got out there got to see a real good game with our guys. Obviously, our roster was about double that at the time, and unfortunately, a lot of those guys aren't with us anymore. But I think the fans kind of saw it, and they know what to expect. And I think when the fans show up, they're going to get quite a show. And I think Long Island's a pretty big hotbed. I've got a lot of buddies from the area, and I think this will do really well there. So that's what we're hoping for, obviously. And Long Island fans are pretty rowdy, and they like the violence. So I think we're going to fit into this market pretty well.
No, yeah, I agree, and I think appealing to the Islanders fan base with the color scheme and the logo, I think it is a smart move too. So
it's the old fisherman logo.
It really is. Yep.
Yeah.
And they should bring those back as throwbacks. I know they got the NY, like the new school, like Adidas ones that they got as like a third jersey, but they definitely should bring back the fisherman jersey at some point. But let's switch gears a little bit to the international game. We mentioned how you played for the Iroquois National team several times now, most recently in 2018 in Israel. But what is it like, playing for that team and representing your fellow Native Americans?
It was incredible. I got to experience I believe it was 2012 when they couldn't go to the games in London, or something like 2010 maybe. So I kind of got to experience that a little bit. Our trip was delayed by about 2.5 days due to, again, passport issues. But you kind of got the full experience. Our flight was delayed by 8 hours, 4, 5, 6 hours, something like that, when we were going to Israel. But the whole experience was absolutely incredible. Being able to represent Métis and the Iroquois people was, a blessing, and especially to go to a place like Israel, somewhere where, I never thought in my life I'd be able to go. You don't expect stuff like that, right? Because a lot of people, I've had buddies who played for Canada, U.S., and Iroquois, and they've got to go to Finland and all that stuff, and with the United teams or whatnot. So, as much as it is about lacrosse, it is also pretty cool to be able to travel in that kind of atmosphere. When we were in Israel, I'll tell you, we were like rock stars. It was incredible.
Great.
This might sound a little bit, first person kind of perspective, and people might disagree. I think we had the most fans out of any other team there. We had a bunch of the other host teams cheering for us, and a bunch of the other teams cheering for us when we were playing Canada and the U.S. So it was pretty cool. One of the best parts about it, obviously, was the opening ceremonies, being there and then playing in front of, I forget exactly how many, but a lot of fans in the opening, with every, nation there, and a whole bunch of fans filled up in the Netanya soccer stadium, pre-game fireworks and stuff. That was pretty cool. I remember going out there for my first shift ever at D-Pole, and I looked at their attacking it, and I immediately ran to Ryan Brown. Just like, I played a couple of years with you in college. I know you the best. I'm going to stay with you, and I'm going to keep my stick on your wrist so you can't shoot. Obviously, didn't work too great.
Deny the ball.
Led the tournament scoring. But, no, it was pretty cool. And then obviously winning bronze was a super cool event. We played, that was our 8th game in 8 days, I believe. And being able to end that with a nice win, and take home a medal was obviously cool. And getting to play with some of the best players in the world on the Iroquois team, when you're looking at all the Thompsons and the two Stotts brothers, and Tyson Bonberry helped me a lot on defense, being a good buddy of mine, helped me get through the rust and learn the position on the go, and having Coach Amar, who I was close with, so being Kyle's roommate in high school and college for a bit, and then Red as the head coach and Coach Tiff. It was a pretty unbelievable experience, and I'm super grateful to be able to play for that, and I hope to be able to play for the Iroquois again, whether it's at the next field games, at the next box games, whatever I can do, or be involved with it in any way possible.
That's awesome, and and hopefully too, someday in the Olympics in 2028. Because I know I stumbled across your article that you wrote in the Johns Hopkins newspaper that addressed the issues. You mentioned the passport issues that the team faced not only in England in 2010, but also in Israel in 2018. Luckily, it didn't affect you guys in 2018. Talk me through your teammates and yourselves. Frustrations, with the recent difficulties with the IOC not recognizing, the Iroquois national team, and what's it going to take for them to recognize a nation which, actually we owe this sport. This sport was started by the Native Americans, and for them to not recognize you guys as a nation for the Olympics, what's your pitch to this Olympic committee and, that they will recognize you guys in time for the 2028 Olympics?
Yeah, so for people who are unaware of it, the FIL and the IOC came together in order to bring the Olympics to lacrosse eventually. I believe you said it was 2028 in Tokyo. I think before that they're doing like a trial run in Tokyo, and then for the LA Olympics they want to bring lacrosse in or something along those lines, which goes very different rules and everything. It is what it is, but yeah, so the FIL, obviously, Iroquois has been a part of that since the 90s, or maybe even the 80s. I can't remember off the top of my head. But the IOC, the International Olympic Committee, still hasn't accepted Iroquois as a sovereign state and recognized them as part of the Olympics, which basically means you're going to take some of the best players in the world, like Lyle and Thompson and Randy Stats and all these guys, and they're not going to go play for Canada, not going to play for the U.S. They're just not going to. I'm sorry. I don't want to speak for them. This is just my assumptions from knowing them, that they won't represent Canada and the U.S. at the Olympics because, they want to represent the Iroquois people and the Haudenosaunee people. So, yeah, my article kind of went through trying to find ways or look at ways in which why this is such a problem and how it can be dealt with. You got places like Puerto Rico, which is technically part of the United States, but when they go, they actually represent themselves at the Olympics. You have, a refugee team represented under the Olympics. They remove Russia for doping, but they still include them under a different flag and whatnot, I believe, what was it, 2 Olympics ago. So you have all these different, exceptions that are being used. You have countries that have 1 or 2 athletes when they're walking the open ceremonies as track runners. But for some reason, you're including a sport and not including the people who created it. So it doesn't make much sense to me. From what I could tell, a big thing is borders and surrounding borders, the fact that a lot of nations are spread out throughout Canada and the U.S. without true borders of a land to represent exactly where they are. I don't know. I doubt the IOC has any recognition of what that is or understand truly what the history is around Native Americans and throughout Canada and the U.S. But I think that's a big problem. I do believe personally that the Iroquois will be in the Olympics. I think we've had support, we will and have had support in these kind of situations from countries in the past that, will be in these games. And I think we will have the backing from organizations like the CLA and U.S. Lacrosse to get us into the game. So do I think it's an issue come 2028 that we won't be there? No. Do I think it's going to be a long, over-processed experience? Yes. Is it going to be a pain in the ass? Yes. But I don't think you will have lacrosse in the Olympics without the Iroquois.
Yeah. No, I mean, when I read your article, I was shocked. I didn't realize it was an issue, and So hopefully, we can kind of spread the word about this and maybe get some, more public discourse about it, because to me, it's ridiculous. But, I think the way you talk about it, you talk about it in with a very level head, and I think you have some great ideas and some great points to make on why they should include you, and we wish you and the rest of the team the best of luck in that process, and if there's anything we can do to spread the word, we certainly will.
Yeah, I was gonna say I wrote this paper as a class project, as a paper in a class, and my professor said you should you need to get this out and put it in the newsletter. And I was like, okay, fine. I shared it on my Twitter or whatnot because obviously I spent a lot of time on it. I was really proud of my work. I was shocked with the traction it got and how big it became. I had a lot of people reach out to me afterwards, a lot of, people favoring it and retweeting it and quote tweeting it and everything. So I was honestly, when I did that, I was shocked with the amount of response I got to it. But, it's one of the things I'm really glad I did it. And, I think it kind of got people realizing it. Like you said, I don't think a lot of people realized this is what was going on. And it's kind of like one of those things that's being fought like behind the scenes right now with the Iroquois people and the executives there with the Iroquois Nationals. And I think it's one of the things that, again, I don't think it's going to happen where the Iroquois won't be included. But I think it's something that if continually talked about and fought for, the process can be a lot quicker than, it probably will be, to be honest. We've seen battles with this in the past when it comes to Iroquois and fighting for stuff. And I'll just say, we're going to get it one way or another. I guarantee it. But, again, the support and the response I got from that was incredible. And, I think it kind of opened eyes to people who weren't aware of it. Again, like you said, you weren't aware of this issue. I guarantee a lot of people in the lacrosse community aren't aware of this issue. And I think, this is an opportunity to see, how much pride and respect people have for this game and recognizing that, you can't really do this without us.
Yep. No, absolutely. I agree 100%. But that kind of wraps up our main questions. We appreciate, you talking through pretty much your whole career, but let's get into some fun stuff. We're going to take a quick break here for a word from our sponsors, and then we'll go into our 5 and 5 segment. Hey everyone, thank you for listening to another episode of the Pro Lacrosse Talk podcast. We've been using Anchor for our podcast since the very start. Anchor gives you everything you need in one place, and better yet, it's free. They allow you to easily record and edit your podcast so it sounds great and send it out to all the major networks such as Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and many more. Better yet, they connect you with advertisers so you can start making money from your podcast right away. So if you're interested in starting a podcast, download the Anchor app today or go to anchor.fm to get started. Today's show is being brought to you in part by Stitcher Premium. You can use Stitcher Premium to listen to shows ad-free such as Conan O'Brien Needs a Friend, My Favorite Murder, Wolverine the Lost Trail, or our favorite, The Fantasy Footballers. For only $4.99 a month or $34.99 a year, you get access to Stitcher Originals, bonus episodes, and comedy albums. Better yet, if you go over to Stitcher.com/premium and use the promo code lacrosse today, you can get 1 month free. So head on over to Stitcher, sign up, and get your free trial today. All right, so welcome back. Let's start off with our lacrosse-related questions. And the first one I'll start off with is, who is someone in the lacrosse community, whether a teammate, opponent, coach, or family member that you admire?
Lacrosse-related, John Grant Jr. I got to play with June his last year with Peterborough. I remember one of the first passes he threw to me, we were in warm-up, and he threw me an around-the-world pass off the backboards and right into my stick.
Oh, my God.
And I didn't even move my stick, and I caught it. I was kind of shocked. Like, I've seen him do it on TV, and, he's been doing it for 30 years now. I don't know. He's in his mid-40s now, and he's still dominating whatever league he plays in. Seeing June, seeing what he put his body through, especially near the end of his career, and how he is and still playing now today, and just pushing through all that just for his love of the game, and now the amount he's giving back Now he's at Air Force. He was coaching high school forever. He's the real life Reggie Dunlop of the Denver Outlaws, being player coach. Yeah, I would say Junes is someone I really respect, and especially for everything he's done for the game. And how can you not respect someone who had bright bleach blonde hair back in the day when he was playing for college? It's the greatest look of all time.
The nice goatee, also. He had his signature goatee. Now he's got like the full beard, but there's so many legends of the game that we talk about. We throw around the Gate brothers, the Powell brothers, but he's the one that's been dominating the most for the longest, and both leagues too, because we talk about too the box game and the field game are very different, and he's I know he just retired recently from the NLL a few years ago, but he was still playing not too long ago, and then to still dominate in the field, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, and I'll say getting to play with him was like a dream come true. I remember I got an assist on one of his goals, and it was like the greatest thing of my life. I thought it felt so cool. But again, like it changes over time. Right now, as June, if you ask 10-year-old me, it was John Tavares, because I wanted to be exactly like him. I wanted to be a lacrosse player by night and by weekend, and I wanted to be a teacher by day.
Yeah.
So, it changes over time. But yeah, I think, as you get older and you see the body of work that juniors put in, it's hard to not have him as he's probably the best lacrosse player to ever play in my mind. I mean, Gary, Johnny are all great. But I think, honestly, in my mind, Junior's the best to ever do it. Box, field, you name it. John Gray Jr. should be at the top of your list.
No, yeah, I agree 100%. But following that, we'll go into our second question, which is, what are some pregame superstitions or routines you have?
I think I just literally put my gear on the same way every time. Kidney pads, left arm guard, right bicep, left bicep. I don't wear shoulder pads out for the first warm-up. I'll put them on after the second warm-up. I kind of developed standing behind the net for like pregame, like postgame, pregame, like huddle when we're all around the net. I stand behind the goalie. A couple double kicks in the corner. I did that a lot in junior, and I'm still kind of doing that. As I come out on the floor, I make sure I hit both sides of the boards twice before I run out. I'm not superstitious at all, as you can tell.
You're just a little stitious.
It's these things that make you feel comfortable over time that I've kind of developed. And, now that I say it out loud, I realize I have a lot more than you think you do, but it's just stuff that, comes naturally to you at a certain point. I'm sure if you watch certain players, though, that stuff eventually comes up all the time, and you realize that little stuff that players do every game. I used to do a handshake with Kyle Killen before every junior game. There's stuff that comes and stuff that goes, but, I think what I said kind of, the main thing, standing behind the net, the boards, putting on my gear the same way.
Yeah, no, I mean, muscle memory is important. You got to treat each game, the same in order to like get into that rhythm. So it's, we call them superstitions and routines, but sometimes it's, it's just, it's necessary. It's not like we always find some fun ones from people, but it's more, it's kind of like to kind of tell, our young listeners too, like, you should develop your own kind of routines to kind of get you ready for game day.
I used to always get made fun of for stuff like that too. Like, don't do what makes you comfortable. If it looks weird, it looks weird. No one cares. If it helps you score, it helps you score. If it helps you shut a guy down, just do it. Don't listen to what other people say. I fought coaches on my superstitions before. It's the way it is. And I don't say fight with your coach, but if it makes you comfortable, do whatever you can to make sure you're in the right mindset for your game. Obviously at Hopkins, I was mostly a man of specialist, but that didn't change the way I prepared for games. I prepared it just as if I was, a 4-year starter All-American. It was the same way for me. I went to practice the same way. So it's just one of those things that once you develop it and it feels right, stick with it. And, you might have to fight some people on it, or you might have to, keep battling to keep it, but do it if it helps you.
Yeah, no, I like that. That's some good advice. And going off of that, do you have a top song on your game day playlist?
See, I've been thinking about this one ever since I listened to Tiana's. Tiana's my girlfriend who plays for WPLL. She did this podcast, a month or so ago, a month and a half ago?
Yeah, I think it was, I forget when it was. It was the end of the summer, though, for sure.
Yeah, so she was talking about how she's a big rocker and all that. Like, I don't mind that. I'm not, like, I'm kind of the guy who listens to whatever's in the locker room. I'm never in control of music, I'll tell you that. But I'm a big country guy, so I'll hit up some, like, old school country to get me going sometimes.
Okay.
Like Dust on the Bottle, stuff like that. It's really weird and it doesn't sound like it will get you going, but that's the kind of stuff. Again, it's just me being comfortable with who I am, and I can listen to AC/DC or I can listen to Young Jeezy or whoever, Kanye or whoever, Drake, whoever people are listening to. But normally, especially in college, a lot of the time it was some country music to kind of, get me in the right zone and kind of get me ready to go.
Yeah, no, that's great, and it's nice too. It's a good change of pace. I know I had some guys that I played with that you'd think like they'd be rocking out as well, and they listen to like classical music or whatever to kind of like ease their mind and get them cool before games. And sometimes it's just different things work for different people. So number 4 though, what is your current lacrosse stick up? What is your current lacrosse stick setup in terms of shaft, head, and stringing?
I use the thickest, strongest, heaviest Under Armour shafts on the market. I've gone through a lot of shafts playing, and I broke a shaft this summer, and that was the shaft they had with Brooklyn. And, I've used it ever since. And then I used the old school Under Armour Command. And I used it for my last 2 years of college. 3 shooters, 2 nylons with a big old pocket in it. For the most part, it's probably ECD mesh. That was, again, a sponsor at college, and I took about 50 pieces before I left school to make sure I had plenty of it in case heads broke, stuff like that. But, yeah, all 3 of my first stick, my backup and my backup's backup are all the exact same. It's that heavy shaft with the command head, East Coast soft mesh with 3 shooters, 2 nylons, all dialed, ready to go with either taped up hockey puck in it or a softball to keep her nice and wide and ready until she's not pinched.
Yep, no, you gotta have that softball. I use the Superpower, and that of course is notorious for getting pinched, so I'd always throw a softball in there. And I actually use the East Coast Styes mesh as well. I feel like anything wax related, especially, I'm just used to playing the field game, but anything with a little bit of like a wax finish to it is always good for the weather.
I'd use String King and East Coast, and they're both awesome. It's just I just happen to be using East Coast now. So for rhyme or reason, I like them both. I used to use String King sticks all the time. It's just kind of what was given to me. In the summertime with the Lakers, we were a String King sponsored stick, and my company was sponsored by String King, so I used String King, and then I'd get to school and I would use Under Armour. And I just I've stuck with Under Armour since after college. But things change, sponsorships change your mind, right?
Yeah, no, for sure.
Whoever, I'll use whatever stick with whatever mesh as long as I can dial it up the way I like it, and the ball shoots straight. Then I'm not too picky with what it is.
Yeah, you're good to go. I like that. And then my final one will be, what has been your favorite venue to play lacrosse at? I know we talked about, going international. You've obviously played in some pretty historic venues like Homewood Field. So what's been your favorite venue to play at? It doesn't have to be one either.
Yeah, I think it depends on the circumstance. I'll say playing at Homewood against Maryland and against Syracuse, those were pretty cool experiences. Just in terms of the fan atmosphere. When you sell out Homewood, you can tell. I remember against Loyola, I think it was my junior year when Tinney scored the winner in overtime. There was a huge Loyola fan base there, right on the other side, right where we scored. And, after we had scored the game winner, we all ran over to Joel, and Loyola was throwing Happy Eating burgers at us on the field. It was pretty funny.
Oh my gosh.
So stuff like that's pretty fun. You don't forget those, the packed houses at Homewood. I'd say the Memorial Center in Peterborough for games there with the senior team. It's almost sold out every game. 3,500 plus fans, in a small town that, that's what they live and die for. Like, that's their pro sports team. That's a pretty surreal venue. I know I'm going to be able to play in a bunch of cool spots this year. I'm excited for some of the fan bases. The NNL are absolutely ridiculously rowdy and known for it. I'm excited to play in Philly. I think that's going to be pretty fun. I've got to watch a couple games there last year, and their fans are some of the rowdiest I've ever seen. So that's exciting. But yeah, I'd probably say personally I've played on Homewood and Peterborough Memorial Center up there for most historic and most fun I've had playing that venue.
Awesome, that's great. But going off of that, we'll go into our off-the-field questions, and the first one I'll ask is harkening back to your Hopkins days. What was your favorite class to take at Johns Hopkins?
Probably the marketing classes. I don't know, something drew me to it. I had some great professors. Professor Kendrick was awesome. But yeah, I'd probably say any marketing classes. We had a sports marketing class, probably that was my favorite I'll go with. It just kind of gave you the ins and outs of it, of the whole sports marketing aspect of life, and, growing into a pro career, especially in a sport like lacrosse, where you really have to advertise yourself, to make money in the sport personally. You see guys like Paul Rabel and Kyle Harrison, and, more recently, I've got to meet guys like Connor Kelly, obviously, and Jake Picaro, who was out at tryouts, who, they have to market themselves as pro athletes, right? So I'd say that class really helped me kind of see into the business aspect of it, which I think will help. So I'd probably say sports marketing was my favorite class at Hopkins.
Awesome, that's great. And I also want to tell our listeners, too, you also can speak fluently in French, is that correct?
Yeah, I grew up speaking French. I went to a French school for a large part of my elementary, middle school, and a little bit in the high school. So I haven't spoken so much recently as I used to, but yeah, I'm fluent in French.
Number two then is, what are some hobbies or activities you enjoy doing when not on the lacrosse field?
This is another question where it's just like, it's hard to have a hobby and whatnot when your life surrounds around one thing, which is lacrosse. So, because especially playing, I'd say probably 11 out of the 12 months of the year, it's working out, it's lacrosse. I guess on my downtime, it's a lot of Netflix, hanging out with friends and, family whenever I can see them, and, girlfriend and all that kind of stuff. So I'd probably say, my main hobbies is probably working out, and that's what, being a pro lacrosse player, your life is kind of surrounded around that. A lot of us are playing 10, 11 months out of the year now, so I would say probably the only hobbies I really have now are working out, hanging out with friends, families, and important people in my life, as well as, that odd time where you get to sit down and relax, just watch Netflix or go on YouTube or, that kind of generic, every day boring stuff. I wouldn't say there's anything specific that I can really do outside of lacrosse now. It's kind of engulfed in my life.
Yeah, no, nothing wrong with that at all. I'm obviously pretty obsessed with lacrosse myself, so there's nothing wrong with that. Number three would be, who is your favorite non-lacrosse athlete to watch?
Hockey-wise, I always like guys like Jerome McGinley and Sean Avery. Tough guys, mean, gritty guys. Those are always kind of my favorite players who I watch. I mean, Avery's kind of made a name for himself in social media now, kind of being an ass, but, it's always pretty funny to see his stuff. But yeah, I'd say Jerome McGinley was a big one. Just, the way he played hockey and everything. I mean, basketball, probably Kobe, as generic as it sounds.
Nothing wrong with that. Give some love to the Black Mamba.
And then football, I always looked up to guys like Brian Urlacher and Ray Lewis. I'm a big Bears fan, so Urlacher was the only star we had for quite a while, so I always liked him. So yeah, I'd probably say those 3 guys, or 4 guys, or 5 guys are kind of the main ones.
Yeah, no, some good choices. Rex Grossman wasn't your favorite Bear?
No, if I was going to pick a Bear, it'd be Jay Cutler out of him. I'm thinking we might sign Cutler soon again if Mitch keeps playing the way he does.
Yeah, I know. It's a shame to watch some of these great Bear defenses have such struggling quarterbacks. And I actually thought, Trubisky might put it together, but obviously he doesn't look like he's the answer this year.
I think Big Cat from Barstool had the best take of all time. It's so true. This weekend proved that if Mitch Trubisky or any Bears quarterback just has an average game, the Bears defense can make it so they win. If he just plays average, I think the Bears, have, a much better record. But the curse, we haven't had a good quarterback since McMahon in '85. So it is what it is. We'll live and die by it. I'll forget the fact that Mahomes and all those other quarterbacks went after we picked Mitch. It is what it is. It's what you live with being a Bears fan.
Yeah, no, it is what it is, like you said. But going off of that, we'll ask, what is your favorite meal, and do you prefer to dine out, take out, or cook at home?
I would say we probably, when I say we, me and Tiana probably eat out quite a bit. We've been trying to eat in more. I am the cook. No matter what she says, I am the cook in the relationship. So I know I do a lot of that, so I enjoy that actually. I'm a big steak guy, so if we're staying in, I like to make steak with some veggies and mashed potatoes and whatnot with corn and all that. If we're eating out, I'm a big pizza guy. I hope Jay Dyer's not listening to this. He's my trainer, and he's been bugging me about my diet. But yeah, no, when we eat out, it's not, it's a lot of pizza, it's a lot of bread, it's a lot of dough, a lot of stuff that I don't need to be eating right now. But yeah, I'd say probably those are my 2 big things.
No, that's great. I'm going to call an audible for our last one, and I'm going to ask, since you mentioned Jay Dyer, what does your workout routine look like these days? I know he puts you guys through the ringer. He coaches a lot of these professional lacrosse players, but, what is he having you doing in the gym that's preparing you for the season?
Yeah, so my cardio has always been a big thing with me. I don't mind doing cardio. I just don't like running in a straight line or running on a machine that makes me run in the same spot. So obviously after I was done college and I was still living in Baltimore, I reached out to Jay to see if I could train with him post college. Obviously, there's a lot of guys who work with him a lot and have had great pro careers, and that's what I'm obviously aspiring to have here. Right away, Jay's like, yeah, let's set it up. So, I mean, I'm in season now to a certain degree, but, it's, very, 2-3 exercise sets, kind of high volume of exercises. I'm not, squatting 300 pounds or bench pressing, 250 or whatever, weight you want to throw out there. I don't know if I can bench 250. It's just the first number that came to my head, so I'm not trying to, make myself seem like a big shot. I promise I'm not that. But yeah, it's a lot more, I'd say just specific to lacrosse. I work out with, Kyle Marv and my college teammate who's with the Philly Wings now. We work out together in Baltimore right now. Tiana's with us too. So, it's really just a lot of specific to lacrosse, very low impact exercises, I would say. There's normally, 2 or 3 exercises, 3 or 4 sets, do about that with 2 or 3 different times, followed by some sort of conditioning, and then footwork or something beforehand. So, I think he's one of, if not the top trainer in lacrosse. I think it's hard to judge, to not admit that with his historic background. in the game now, being involved with USA and everything. So I'm grateful that, he hasn't, he's always open to pushing and training his former athletes, whether it be USA, USA, Hopkins, or whatnot. So, Jay's kind of been the man, making sure I'm in shape and kind of switching up the way I do things now. He's been able to watch me more one-on-one than trying to manage 50 other guys in the weight room at the same time like it was at Hopkins. So it's been a different experience in Hopkins. It's been a great experience, and it's developing a really good friendship. I hope it's the same way for Jay.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. It's good to hear about him. I've heard so much about him, but I really haven't talked to any of the people we've had on about him. I can't remember how many we've actually had that train with him, but it's good to hear it from somebody that actually works with him personally. So maybe he's the guy that we might have on.
He's the best in the game. He's the best there. There's a reason he's in the position that he's in, so well respected in this game. And he goes very under the radar. He's not a big spotlight guy. I don't think he likes it as much. I know he doesn't like it for a fact. So the fact that I'm talking about him this much, he probably doesn't. If he ever listens to this, he probably will punish me for it in the future. But no, I respect Jay a lot and everything he does for me and has done for guys in the past. And I guarantee if you see a top-end lacrosse player, Jay Dyer has something to do with him or has done something with him to help his game. That's the kind of impact he has on the sport, whether it be men's or women's. Yeah, no, that's great.
But yeah, that wraps up our 5 and 5 segment. But we're gonna end on a final question that we ask all our we're gonna end on a final question that we ask all our guests. And that's, what is some advice that you have for a young player looking to one day play lacrosse professionally?
I would say just no matter what your role is on your team or in the game, embrace it. Don't always accept it. Keep fighting, whether or not. Like for example, in college, I was a man-up specialist for the most part and a scout player. I kept battling to try and get in that attack or that midfield role. Unfortunately, it didn't work out for me. But I realized how important my role as a scout player was. I developed a really good relationship with Coach Petro. I learned how to analyze other offenses, how to, each week I was given a player. So one week it'd be Pat Spencer. The next week I'd have to be Doc Aiken. The next week I'd be Zed Williams or whatnot when he's at Virginia and stuff like that. And you have to really analyze a player, what they do, some of their tendencies. And, I think it honestly helped me so much as a player and a person and, eventually into that coaching role where, I have to, watch film and I have to analyze it. And, you might not always be the go-to guy, and you have to realize that what you do is important. And, again, I went from a guy who barely played at Hopkins to now, I'm on a professional roster playing in the NOL and living out my dream. So I would say, no matter what your situation is, no matter what position you're put in, take full advantage of what you're given, work as hard as you can, ask questions, learn from the people around you, and don't stop and don't, stop caring about it just because you're not in the position that you want to be. I've seen plenty of guys fall off the wayside because they don't play on Saturday, and you can't accept that personally. And it sucks because they've been great talent. But you have to understand that eventually your time will come. You just have to keep working, keep grinding, and, no matter what it is, learn from it, work as hard as you can at it. And, if it's meant to be, it's meant to be. If it's not, then you're going to have no regrets when you come out of whatever level it is when you're done playing this great game, and you can eventually give back to it.
No, that's some great advice. I think a lot of young listeners need to listen to that, and know that, like you said, finding your role and embracing it doesn't always mean, too, accepting where you're at. You can still work hard to continually improve while also embracing the role that you have at the moment. So, I think that's some really great advice, Jake. We appreciate that. Just to wrap up, Jake, where can people find you on social media?
Yeah, Instagram and Twitter, both the same. It's at JDF LAX18. Yeah, those are the two main ones. If you want to find me on Facebook or Snapchat, good luck.
I like that. But Jake, this has been great. Again, thank you for joining. Best of luck to you, the Riptide this season, and we'll definitely be in touch in the future.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
Today's show is being brought to you in part by Stitcher Premium. You can use Stitcher Premium to listen to shows ad-free such as Conan O'Brien Needs a Friend, My Favorite Murder, Wolverine the Lost Trail, or our favorite, The Fantasy Footballers. For only $4.99 a month or $34.99 a year, you get access to Stitcher Originals, bonus episodes, and comedy albums. Better yet, if you go over to Stitcher.com/premium and use the promo code lacrosse today, you can get 1 month free. So head on over to Stitcher, sign up, and get your free trial today.